The weirdest one, that somebody who came in and told me they were from planet Zog, which turned out, and everybody else around me is going, and I'm just like, I just take a deep breath and go, here we go. Let's see where we're going to go with this one. I think I'm the most fascinated when I hear people who come from really difficult circumstances and the light suddenly goes on for them. And I watch them start to move and evolve right in that moment. Those are the ones that always give me goosebumps.
All right, welcome to the New Age Human Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurial empaths to become successful conscious creators by diving into alternative health, mindfulness, and innovative technology. I'm your host, John Estacio, and today we're joined by Judy Wilkins Smith, who is an expert in breaking success barriers in both your professional and personal life. We'll dig deep into something called money DNA, revealing how you can change your habits and old patterns that are holding you back financially. If you're looking to pivot towards sustainable growth and financial freedom, this episode is for you. Now, if you want to support the show, please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And if you want, you can always head over to newagehuman.com and join the newsletter for sneak peeks on future episodes, future projects, and more. With that said, thank you for joining us today. Let's get to the show. All right, cool. Well, Judy, thank you for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you. I'm excited to talk about how our ancestry DNA from our parents from way back when, more than what we're being told, is being passed on. A lot of times, right, we're being told about health. It runs in the family, and even that changes. So I'm excited to have you on and break stuff down on the spiritual side, the money side. Let's dig into it. Thanks for coming on.
I am super excited to be here. I like all of what you've said and what we're going to explore because, yes, it's not even that we haven't been told. I think people haven't realized and known that the patterns that they carry aren't just theirs, and they're there for a very specific reason. And once you start decoding it, life flows a whole lot more smoothly.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know that I'm not sure how many people in my audience is familiar with you. So why don't we give them a background on how you got into this, because those stories are usually pretty cool.
Oh yeah, there's a very, very weird way actually. So I was in the medical arena, left South Africa, moved over here. My father was killed here, and it was either write books or go crazy. And I figured writing books might be a better option. So we went with that. And I was doing some research and bumped into somebody who was doing family systems and constellations work. And that led me to, I started with that, went and studied with them. The person said, come study with me, I'll help you with a book. I went and studied and got zero help with a book, just saying. But that led me into this. And then I had people saying to me, well, if you could do it for individuals, can you do it for executives? Well, yes, executives are individuals too, so that was easy. And then into business, can you help us look at places where we're stuck in our business? And the beautiful thing about constellations, which is a word for 3D movement, is that you're getting to see it, hear it, touch it, walk in it. So you're employing multiple senses, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But what happened for me was somebody said to me, well, and then remind me to go as well into why it's different. But somebody said to me, well, of course you could do it. And I said, huh? Why? And they said, because you come from South Africa. And I went, what's that got to do with it? And they said, this is where the work began. It began with the Zulu tribe. So a full circle moment for me when they said that was when I left the medical field, the person who gave my farewell speech was a Zulu gentleman. And he said to me, you may be leaving us, but you'll find a way to represent us in the world. And I went, yeah. And now I do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add to that. From what I understand, also, like the sun affects your DNA, right? Everything is light, and the different parts of the planet have different energy systems. And I can only imagine that just the physical place that you were exploring and growing up had an effect on that. So it was a natural direction that you went to, and it came full circle. And then they knew that on top of that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I've had that one, and I had a teacher when I was 8. I said to her, I'm going to be a doctor. And she said, no, sweetheart, you're going to write books and help people's hearts. And I went, no, I'm not. She said, Tracy's going to be the doctor. You're going to do that. Tracy is now a doctor and I do this.
So wait. And so when you were in 8th grade or 8 years old?
No, I was 8 years old.
And these, you, at least in my experience, you rarely see a teacher telling you, no, this is what you're going to do. They're usually like, what are you going to do? What was different about your school though? Like how are they so bold in saying those things?
You know, I went to school, we were 60 kids in a class. The teacher would walk in and just clap her hands twice and there was dead silence. And we were one of the top schools in South Africa at the time. And they were just really good about ethics and morals and good character. And I think in South Africa, it really was at the time that the village raised the child. It really was. And so a teacher could and would say those sorts of things, but she was super accurate. Tracy's the doctor and I'm doing what I'm doing.
Wow. That's interesting. And I do see an importance of like the village helping raise the children, because nowadays most families are left with the burden themselves, and then both parents are forced to work. And because if you didn't have the right money DNA and upbringing as well and background, there's a whole different slew of things that affect that. So what I want to do is, I know you said we'll get back to that. What was the we'll get back to that?
What makes what I do a little different is that most constellators will look at a pattern, identify it, and then the pattern can stop. But for me, working with people, what I began to realize was more and more they were saying to me, okay, so now I know the pattern, but now what? And that's, I think, when my work shifted into a very different direction, because I work a lot in the and now what. So what I've recognized is that you inherit these patterns that come down through the family system and down through the generations, and they tweak you because now you're going, why? Why do we always have to struggle with money? Why do I struggle as an entrepreneur? Well, because he did. But the whole point of the pattern coming to you is for you to understand what the pattern is that's trying to stop and what the pattern is that's trying to start through you, because you're the change agent. So you're literally, if you learn to look at it and you learn to look at systems this way, you're literally never stuck in your life. You may try to tell yourself you are, but you're not.
And I like that word, change agent. Going back into your ancestry, what I'm gathering is that we're talking about, would you say that pattern is similar to the word karma?
You know, people have asked me that. Here's my answer to that. I don't know if we reincarnate. I don't know for sure one way or another. None of us know for sure. But I do know that patterns do. They definitely do. Patterns reincarnate through each generation. And the purpose of a pattern is there is an incompletion in the system, and it keeps getting louder and louder and expanding until somebody goes, stop, enough. I want to do it differently. And if you have a look at the moment with the Middle East conflict that's there at the moment, that started back in the Bible. They didn't ever resolve that. They didn't ever work it through, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we are where we are, and we will be there until each is seen and each is included, because systems do not like exclusions. Anything you exclude will become a pattern that expands and repeats.
Well, that's fun.
It is, for one reason. It's telling you, if you see me and give me my place, you are free to do what you need to do to write the chapter that only you can write.
Could you give an example of identifying a pattern for somebody and how advice that you gave them really helped make them a true change agent, like fulfill that path? I'm curious to see like what that looks like.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't even realize it. So I'll give you one, and you can tell me if that's what you're looking for. We'll look for another one. But I had a lady who came in and she said to me she wanted to do a piece of work, and she said, but I want to do it with my back to the group because I don't belong. I'm really not worthy. And I said to her, okay, we'll do it with your back to the group. And she said, I really want to belong and I never belong. I want to belong in my family system and I don't belong. My brother belongs because he's stoic like they are. I'm very bouncy and bubbly and I don't belong and I really want to belong. She said, but in my family, all they ever gave me were just little drops of love. That's all, just little drops of love. And she kept on with this little drops of love. So I said to her, tell me about your parents, where they were Holocaust survivors. And I said to her, okay, stop. Could they show you a lot of emotion? She said, no, they'd have been killed. So I said, but they gave you little drops of love, didn't they? Yes. How do you do in your family? She said, my family, we're very loving. We're very together. I have a great big community. So I said to her, you belong in your family. Did you not realize that you were giving your family a legacy? Did you not realize that your belonging was to take the little drops and grow them into what you've grown? And she looked and you see this often when you're doing this kind of work, her whole body just went boom. And she said to me, oh my goodness, I do belong. And you could see the rewiring happening in the moment, and you will watch it happen in the mind, and you'll see it in the body. The body will often jolt. It's that big aha moment. And she was blown away. She said, I'll never be the same again. And this is when we realize what the pattern is there to do, and that it's there as a gift, and that we're always supported by the universe, things begin to change. Now we don't think we're victims anymore. Now we can look at success and go, I'm successful, and then I hit a brick wall. Who else hit a brick wall? Who else in the family? And are you taking on their pattern? And if you are, is it serving you, or is that pattern asking you to go beyond the brick wall? So this is very much about looking at what are the events, what have we made them mean, what are our thoughts, feelings, and actions around them, and that's the one that's often trying to stop. And then, what do I really want, wish, and desire in this particular space? Because that's your change agent space. That's the pattern trying to emerge. And if you follow that and you commit to it, and the brain tells the body a story that is compelling enough, you cannot miss. You will get there.
It's very interesting because you identified something based off of understanding the background and the situation of the family in the past. And also, would you say that for people that are trying to just understand what's going on, that their change agent plan is similar to their life's journey plan? Like they want to accomplish this in their life, and because of the patterns of their family, it's natural that they want that.
Because of the patterns of their family, it's often natural that they'll get stuck, because there's what we call a systemic trance. If I do this, this, and this, I belong in the family and I feel good. If I get too big for my boots, they could kick me out. So often we will play smaller to belong. But the one who plays a little bit bigger doesn't realize you're never being kicked out of a system, because it's literally impossible to not belong. What you're doing is you're simply moving a couple of steps ahead of the system, and the rest of the system will catch up.
Interesting. And it seems like, would you not say the feeling of belonging comes up as a theme a lot? Is there any other themes that pop up that you notice?
Huge. So there are 3 in living systems. Belonging is a number one, but order actually drives belonging. So, for example, if you've had to play too big in your life and your mom and dad were small and you played big, or you took care of them, you're what we call out of order, which is out of flow. And when that happens, if you've had to be too big or too small, it can affect the way that you belong. And then the third one is the balance of give and receive. If you give too much, you destroy relationships. If you give too little, you can sour them too. So those 3 are always in play: belonging, balance of give and receive, and order. If you can look at anything in your life and it'll fit into one of those 3 categories. And it's lovely because as soon as you know what the category is, you can begin then having a look to see, so What is off balance? How do I not belong? Where am I too big or too small? What is it costing me? So when I work with people, some people don't have any history. Many people don't have a lot of history. And so what I do is I go straight to tell me your timeline. Tell me the significant events in your life, because they will have come from somewhere and we may not have that information, but we have yours. What are the themes? What are the things that you say? What are the things that you think? What do you feel? What do you do? When did that start for you? What was happening in your life at the time? And is there anyone else that you know of in your family system who may have something similar? And sometimes, John, it's as simple as one word. It could be heart. It could be, what are the ones? I've had some, I know, I'll tell you, one of my favorites. I had this lady come in and she said to me, first time, oh my goodness, it was an absolute catastrophe, an utter disaster. It could have been it was a roasting. I can't believe what this day has been like. I was almost decimated and frankly nearly filleted. I nearly lost my body. And I'm like, I said, oh, what happened? She said, well, I was a little bit late. My boss was annoyed. And I went, wait, that isn't that.
That's
so
extreme.
I said, okay, stop. Do you have any disasters or catastrophes in your family? And she said, no. Well, yeah, one. And I said to her, well, what was it? She said, my mother and I outran a volcano. My father and brother did not. And there it all was, the burning, the decimation, the catastrophe. And we talk about our systems all day long without realizing what we're doing. Our little sayings that we have, the ways that we think and act, those all come from the system, whether we know our family system or not.
Wow. That was pretty extreme. Not
Woo!
being able to outrun a volcano. That is extreme. Wow.
It's extreme.
Oh, I can imagine you hearing these things and having to put on a straight face so that they don't feel like weird, you know? Do you ever feel like you need to?
No, I'm lucky. I'm so curious as to what's going to pop out that I think I'm so immersed in their story that it doesn't, and I have heard weird. I've heard planets and all sorts of things, but they all.
Can you share the weird?
The weirdest one that I did was somebody who came in. I had two. Someone who came in and told me they were from planet Zog, which turned out, and everybody else around me is going, and I'm just like, because it turns into a person. It eventually represented that. And then I had one for a horse, which was very interesting.
A horse?
Nope. I had somebody who'd lost a horse and there was a particular decision they had to make. So, but all around this horse. And then one about a desk. But in each one of those, it was never about the horse, the desk, or the planet. It was about a particular person or figure in their lives that had evolved into this. And as soon as we could identify that, well, then you could bring it into the system and allow that to be there and everything settled down. But I have heard the wild and the fabulous.
Wow. And also having experienced and having those conversations with the wild and the fabulous allows you to really hone in on your skills. They really stretched your capacity to help someone out, I'm pretty sure. Has there ever been a point where you're like, nope, I don't think I can do this one. Nope.
Actually not. Believe it or not, there hasn't been. I just take a deep breath and go, here we go. Let's see where we're going to go with this one. And I'm fascinated. I think I'm the most fascinated when I hear people who come from really difficult circumstances and the light suddenly goes on for them. And I watch them start to move and evolve right in that moment. Those are the ones that always give me goosebumps. And when I do live events, like the one I'm doing at Disney World in November, this is where it's juicy and beautiful because you watch people seeing their system for the first time. Now, I spoke about a constellation. So let me just talk a little bit about what that is and how it helps entrepreneurs and business people, by the way. because I do a lot of that. So what happens is somebody comes in, they say, I want to do a piece of work. They come sit next to me and we talk about what it is they want to look at, where they're stuck, what the issue is. And we identify the components of that issue. So maybe it's mom, dad, sister, brother, grandmother, whatever it is. Maybe it's boss, CEO, CFO, COO, whatever the case may be. And then what I do is I ask the client to give me a picture of what that looks like. So I ask them to place them in spatial relationship to one another. So maybe we've got dad standing in the middle, mom standing off to the side, sister off to the side with mom, brother completely faced the other way around, you smack in the middle of everything. And then I begin to ask questions. So dad standing over there, what's mom doing off of? Oh, mom's always absent. Okay, tell me about mom. And then they'll tell me a little bit about mom's history. And as we go through it, that starts to link to the issue until eventually they can see why they're stuck, what's happened. They can speak it out loud. So now we're talking this through. They can hear the responses because some of the representatives may respond, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Or there may be a movement, and suddenly they will get, it clicks for them. This is why I'm stuck. This is where I got stuck. Do you want to stay stuck? No. So what are we going to do? So we start the reframe. And as they reframe, it's not just a nice idea. It actually starts to really hit at a deep level. So it rewires the neural pathways. And then it starts to hit at the head, heart, and gut level. And of course, when the head, heart, and gut align, that's when you achieve a state of coherence, and that's when things start to move. So people say to me, what does that mean? And I said to them, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You do it every day. You go, oh, that was a stupid thing that I did. I'm such an idiot. And you're feeling it in your body, and your head's going, yep, you're an idiot. And your heart's going, yep, you're an idiot. And your gut's going, check, you're an idiot. This is just the different version of that. It's, you're possible, you're smart. This isn't yours to carry. It's time to move. And it starts to balance all the way through, and you have the different sentences. And so people say to me, but how did that representative know to say that, or this one know how to move? It's simple. We've never been taught to make the unconscious conscious and the invisible visible. A constellation does that. You're literally seeing your internal pattern in 3D right in front of you on the floor. So you're seeing it in front of you. Now, and then people say, but how did they key in? It's also simple. If you've ever watched AGT or American Idol, you know that moment when you see somebody hit their zone and you get goosebumps and everybody gets goosebumps or they're crying, you've sensed into their system. And we do that every day. We're just not taught that that's what we do. But it turns out it's a powerfully, powerfully important part of evolution. It's exactly how we evolve. We look at mom and dad doing 3 jobs and we go, I am not going to do that. I will get an education. That's a constellation. We've just not been taught that that's what we're doing. And when we make it a mindful process like we do at these events, people start to jump very fast because they suddenly key into what they're doing, how the patterns have affected them, and what to do with those patterns. And by the way, that pattern that's plagued you set you up for your life's purpose. That was its purpose. Always. There is no such thing as a straight train smash. It always contains the seeds of your ability to be great.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot where someone said, I had this bad experience, but I'm glad it happened because I learned from it, and now that I can help other people get over that situation, that pain, that struggle, that challenge. So I see where you're coming from with that, where it's that pattern, created a constellation. And my understanding of constellation, I'm thinking of stars. So I'm like really listening in. I'm like, okay, so the stars are involved. Speaking of stars.
Yeah, constellation and stars. Think about it. If you went to any of the star signs or any of the star complexes or constellations, if any one of those stars wasn't there, it wouldn't be that constellation.
True.
Yep. So everything belongs. And this is the other thing that we forget. The good, the bad, and the ugly all belong. They're all serving a purpose. It's when you learn to look systemically that the good is really good and the bad is not what you thought it was. Sometimes what looks really bad may have been good in one generation, not so good now. It's simply asking you to change. Or you may find that the villains in prior generations actually set up success in your generation. So they're not as bad as we thought.
It's that I'm thinking of the word, the oscillation of like the ebb and flow of the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, the light, the
Absolutely.
dark. You can't have one without the other. And that's a really hard pill to swallow too. Like some people are like, it's really hard to swallow that there's, I don't want to say necessary evil, but there are just ebbs and flow. And depending on where you are in that experience is how you're describing it. So I totally see where you're coming from. I did want to ask, what are your thoughts on the actual constellations when people use astrology and they're like, oh, you're a Capricorn, you're an Aquarius, and that affects you? Because we're talking about systems and patterns that are influencing people. Do you ever play with that? Does that ever get involved in your
It doesn't, but it certainly wouldn't bother me if somebody came in and told me they were a Leo or a Capricorn or whatever it was. I would want to know, here's how I would use it. What does that mean for you? Because there's something important in that I need to understand that you're making meaning of. Because don't forget, it's our thoughts, feelings, and actions as a result of any event that creates a pattern, that creates a mindset that then becomes the truth. Only it's not the truth, it's your truth, and you can change that anytime you want. And the other thing that people go, when I start with is, we're all incredible spell masters. And we're doing it all day long. You're casting spells all day long, some of them not so nice on yourself and others. You're stupid at math. You'll always be stupid at math. Okay. Look what you just did. You're going to be incredible. Wow. Okay. We do not realize the impact of what we're saying. We think we do, but literally our words create our reality, and most people do not understand when we say that. But it's true. Our thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Yeah, you are what you think about most of the time, whether you speak it or think it. So I definitely agree with that. And also with the phrase I really like, I wanted to bring it up again because I really like that phrase or what you said, which is helping people bring the unconscious conscious, like bringing what's going on in the background that's just saying yes to everything, and then showing yourself consciously that, like, see how much times the stuff that you said, they said, you yourself said yes to everything. Like, pay attention to that. So I like how you're reflecting on that.
And why did I say yes to everything? Who else says yes to everything? What does it say about me when I am saying yes to everything? Does that make me a better person, a smarter? What is it? Because there is something about what I'm doing and saying that is really, really important. Everything you do and say is really important. It's trying to get your attention and show you where the pattern is that wants to stop and where the pattern is that's trying to invite you to your destiny. The one is a fate, the other one is a destiny.
And I also wanted to bring up, I remember watching one of your interviews, and I forgot her name, but you brought up the understanding or the just the concept that you're working on helping people with, which is victim mentality. And I think that's a growing thing, like an epidemic.
It's huge.
I would love for you to go into that.
Horrible. Yes, I'll go into that. See, what happened was we spoke about belonging, right? And people need to belong. And so if we create a game that's big enough, people will play it. And what's happened is they've now gone, well, if you're not a victim, you don't deserve to be a success. If you're not a victim, you really don't belong, because it's the ones who've suffered who belong. So now everybody thinks, the key to success is I must first struggle, flop, and be a victim. And it's awful. It's really bad. There is another whole idea, which is, you know what? If I want something and I keep doing what I need to do, and I keep moving towards it, I could actually also be really happy getting there. People talk a lot about suffering shaped me. Okay, we could stay with that old pattern, and it's a very old meta pattern that needs to rest a little bit or share some space. But there is another pattern that says, oh my goodness, I just had the most unbelievable experience. I will never be the same again. Those are equally valid, and we don't invest in them. And what are we doing? Victim is fine. It is one half of the language. But the opposite of a victim is not a perpetrator. The opposite of a victim is a master.
Very interesting. Could you elaborate on the master versus the victim?
Absolutely. If I am a victim all the time, everything is happening at me and for me, and I think that God thinks I'm amazing, or the universe or the guides or whatever we want to call it, I'm amazing because I've suffered so much. I'm going to die well, and they'll give me seat L34 at the top. Ain't probably gonna happen. However, we were given incredible capabilities, and we don't use them. We don't say, you know what, John, today I'm going to go and do X. Doesn't matter how many people get in the way, I'm doing it. I am committed to this. I love what I'm doing. Here we go. No. It just takes me to say, are you crazy? And you go, yeah, well, that was a lame idea, right? Huh? Don't do that. Don't do that. If you want to populate your library in a way that's going to take you out of being a victim, your internal library, take an inventory of how much you have done that is good and right. Not just all the grand things, everything. And then start telling yourself better stories. Do you watch horror movies?
Occasionally.
Yeah. So not that often though, right?
No.
But you're really good at telling yourself horror stories about yourself every day and believing them.
Well,
Why?
yeah, because I'm telling myself the horror story.
Yes. Instead of, hey, you know what you did right today? That was awesome. We're taught to not do that. We're taught that humble means you suffer, you scramble, you scrabble. That is not humble. Some of the humblest people I know are some of the most famous people I know. It takes courage to stand up there and go, hey, there's another way and it's quite fun, or it's really good, because people will blast you, because old thinking says being a victim is absolutely amazing. Oh, and then comes my next favorite word or next favorite phrase. We must fight for it. Ugh. Why? We don't have to fight.
Yeah, right.
All you've got to do is commit, choose, and go.
Yeah, and that comes from that understanding that I forgot what we called it. It was like a meta phrase,
A meta pattern.
a meta pattern of having to overcome a huge challenge, and it could be something where you see what you want to do, and then you just go and not be ready for a challenge, because if you are not the person you need to be, as far as the person you want to be, you're gonna have road bumps anyways. But you're saying don't go looking for them, just go.
And stop identifying everything as sacrifice, suffering. My daughter got that one pretty early on. She came, she said to me, yes, while everybody else was playing, I sacrificed my time so I could become a doctor. And I said to her, you could stop right there. And she said, why? I said, you didn't sacrifice anything. You agreed to the entry fee. That was the entry fee. Don't make it about sacrifice. You paid the fee. Be glad you paid the fee, because you're going to be very glad when you're a doctor. And she'll often say to me, so no suffering. No suffering. We're not doing that.
I like the another word I like is I invested a lot of time, because now it's that purposeful
I like
putting
that.
in. Like if I put in my mind, I invest this time, it's an agreement that I made, and subconsciously it's like, yeah, because it's going to come back, right? It's going to come back. And like,
It's also
you're right,
money
sir.
in the bank.
Yeah. And then if you say, I sacrificed all this time, now it's poor me. Can you pat me on the back? I want a hug. And subconsciously it's like, yeah, we are not, whatever, we're the victim and we need help versus, I'm making the move, I'm going for it. It's what we're doing. It's I'm not looking for handouts type of thing. Like and I'm
Exactly.
not ashamed of it. Oh, you know what? Something came up for me when you were talking. Humble. I can see it commonly thought of that humble people had to eat some humble pie or mentally put them down or had to go through a struggle. What are your thoughts on someone who can be humble? Or can I ask you, can you be humble and not go through a crazy challenge? How does that
Look,
work?
your chances are that you may go through a challenge, but it's what you do with it that counts. But here's on my website, one of the first things that's there is how big are you willing to be? And people always say to me, isn't that a little egotistical? And I say, no. Because the day you agree to be the biggest version of yourself possible is the humblest day of your life. It's the first time that you agree to be responsible for growing as big a life as you can grow. And now you're in service of the universe. So you may have gone through a challenge. That's only because, as you said earlier, you weren't there yet. And you're now leveling up. I prefer to think of a challenge as leveling up. That's a lot more fun for me than I've suffered my way to that. No, I've learned a lot. Somebody said to me a couple of days ago, one of the clients I was working with, I never lose. I love this thing. So if he listens, he'll know who he is. He said, I never lose. And I said to him, okay. He said, because I either win or if I don't win, I learn. So I never lose.
Boom.
That's what we're talking about. You do not need to lose.
And some people look forward to losing, or quote unquote losing. They're like, let's see how this rolls.
Yes, let's see how we can fail up. Failing up's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, right. If you would like, I know that one of your specialties is talking about money DNA. And I know people listening would love to appreciate that, especially now when there's inflation going on and there's all this, I call it fear porn around everything's going to collapse. And I don't want to poo-poo the idea of preparing, but we know things are changing and could possibly get worse, and I'm sure they are. But a lot of it could be, like you said, how you handle the situation. And I think going into money DNA can help a lot if you can give any pointers on perspectives and tips.
Absolutely. So with money DNA, it's like emotional DNA. You don't just inherit physical DNA. You also inherit emotional DNA and money DNA. And your money DNA, if you sit down, the way to identify what yours is to sit down and write down all your thoughts, feelings, and actions around money. All of them. Don't censor it. Just write them down. Then have a look at it. Ask yourself, when did that begin for me? What was happening in my life at the time? Is there such a pattern in my family? And then you ask yourself, is this serving me? If not, what do I want to do differently? If you know of disasters in your family, that doesn't mean that that's your disaster. That's there. You're here to change it. Don't be lazy. Go change it. But the other thing about money DNA is we're not taught that money is an and. We are taught it's an or. It's love, all money. It's ethics, all money. It's friends, all money. That is not the truth. It's never been the truth. That is a lie. It is love and money, relationships and money, friendships and money. Money is not a commodity. It's a relationship. And it will show up for you the way that you show up for it.
It reminds me of you can't have your cake and eat it too.
You can have your cake and eat it too. That's the whole... that other dirty myth snuck its way in there, and it's not the truth. You absolutely can. Now, if you're not ethical, are you going to eat horrible cake? Yes. And if you're not nice, are you going to enjoy the cake? Probably not. But the biggest lesson for all of us is you don't need to be a misery to succeed. You don't need to be unethical to succeed. And you certainly don't need to be a cheat to succeed or to have money. In fact, A lot of people will come to me and they say, I want to be richer than I am now, at which point I take a penny out of my wallet and give them that, and we're good, But a lot of them say, I want to be wealthy. And I say, okay, tell me about wealth. Well, those lying, cheating, nasty, greedy people. So I go, okay, so you want to become a liar, a cheat, a thief, and nasty. Well, no. Well, if you think of it that way, if your brain is wired that way, if those are your thoughts and feelings, how do you think you will even see money opportunities in front of you? You cannot. You've wired your brain shut, your heart is closed, and your gut's on vacation. It's not happening.
That's funny, because depending on your environment, your family, if you grew up with a well-to-do, let's say a wealthy family, and they were good people, you're going to assume that people that have wealth are good people, right?
Yes.
And when you see the bad ones out there, you're going to say, well, not everybody's perfect. There's good and bad on different levels. But not knowing that, and coming from a place where that's all you saw was, the evil villain that wants to take over the world, and, TV programming. And then you're like, I don't need money. I just need to survive and get by, and then I can be a good person. I can be a good man, a good woman. And you're like cringing.
I am, because poor money's going, not man. Again. I'm being villainized again. And money cringes too. I mean, it's waiting for people to see how much good, how much flow, how much wiseness it brings, that it is a really good relationship to have. We definitely bought the spell that says, it's not a good thing. Could not be further from the truth. If you start having a relationship with money, watch your money change.
Is there any, I know you said write down your feelings towards money, and then
about
circle
yeah.
about it, and then reflect on any patterns you see or where that came from. Is there any other technique that you could offer someone that may feel like they're stuck, like they hit a plateau financially, and anything that they seemingly do doesn't work? Like, that's it. I can't make any more money. There goes another program. What do you tell that person?
They can, but they're going to have to change the mindset, thoughts, feelings, and actions first. Now, but what I would tell such a person is, if they really, because here's the deal breaker. Do you really want to make more money? Do you really want to have more and be wealthy? Or is that just a nice idea, or something that you blast and label as being not nice? If you blast and label it as being not nice, it doesn't matter what money does in front of you, you won't see it. If you really want it, if you want it, that's more of a want to want. If you really want it, then I'm going to tell you a wild thing to do, and it works. And I make all my clients do it who are executives. I make them go on a money walk. Go on a money walk, go and have a conversation with money. Tell it all of your thoughts, your fears, your actions. Have a talk to it as though it was a friend walking right next to you, and start watching what happens for you. Because you're going to start getting insights into what you're saying, what you're thinking, what you're doing. And by the way, money is not the inanimate object that we suppose it to be. It is flow. It is listening. So you start making friends with money and watch your money situation change.
I think that's a really cool and awesome thing to do. My thought, I get a little wild in my thoughts, and I'm thinking, would it be a problem if I get into an argument with this imaginary money friend of mine, and then
no,
because now you have an imaginary friend with you that's money, and now you have problems now. But that's just a joke.
No, listen to the argument.
I doubt anybody has like, it talks back, but that's like you having your conversation with your subconscious, but giving it a physical identity so that you can have a conversation, because you can digest that conversation, which is great.
Absolutely. You can digest that conversation. You can pay attention to your feelings. You can pay attention to your actions. Well, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Good. So do you ever talk to your money or look at it at home? Well, no, I mean, okay, now you know why you're not doing anything. You're not even looking at the stuff.
Interesting. Has anybody had like an interesting visual what they saw money turn into, as far as like who
I've had
or
a
what they're
couple.
talking
I've
to?
had a couple of people do that. I've also had my own experience where I went and had a long conversation with money, about a 2-hour walk, and on the way back, I picked up money as I was walking, and not just once.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to, literally money is falling out of the skies. So everybody, that's a good tip. Have a conversation with money. After 2 hours, you might step on some. That's really cool.
You might. I have.
Wow. As we come to a close here, I think we spoke about a lot of really cool stuff. We talked about ancestral DNA and like the emotional DNA, the money DNA, having a conversation with money, stepping on money. Is there anything that you, in our conversation, and victim mentality, is there anything that you feel in our conversation that you feel you overlooked or you want to come back to kind of clarify, or that anything we missed?
I would say not really. There are two things. One is you're a remarkable life if you know how to see it. But number two is you're not stuck and you're not a victim. You're not. Unless you think so, and then good luck.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, that's a hard, okay, I don't want to say that is a hard pill to swallow. I'm going to say that I can see that being a challenge for people. And that could be just my perspective, right? I got to check on myself too. Because I know myself, I would hesitate to say certain things because I feel like someone's brain's gonna fry, right? Like it's just, you can't, you know that movie, you can't handle the truth. Is there ever time where you're like, should I say this statement because I don't think they can handle the truth right now?
Well, there's a gentler version that they can certainly go and look at. That's why I wrote the book I wrote, because it shows people how to take those steps, literally little step by little step by little step. It's very practical. I wrote it so that nobody needed to stay stuck.
Okay. So what is that book? And
that book is Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. Perfect.
And you can get that like on Amazon.
You can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Audible, you name it, it's out there. It's become a little gem of its own that's people go, oh, this is practical. And I go, that was the intention.
You're like, yes. High fives to me.
Actually, good for them, because it's all of them who are doing the work. But a lot of business people read this book. A lot of people who feel like they want more and they're a little bit stuck, they read the book. Or they come see me at a live event.
That's awesome. So we have that book. Is there anything that you're working on now that you want to give people a sneak peek about, or give like a heads up so that if they're looking to contact you, they know something that's like fresh coming out or something that's new that they can appreciate?
Something that will be coming out probably next year is Genealogy 1, 2, 3. In other words, okay, Genealogy cool. 3.0, 2.0, and 1.0. 1.0, they all know, go spit in the bottle. Genealogy 3.0 is me, but there is an intriguing little piece in between, and our genealogy is not as small or as confined as we thought it was. It is a doorway to all sorts of things.
Do you mind elaborating on these sorts of things, or is that confidential?
Not at all. So your genealogy 1.0 is where do I belong? That's important. Genealogy 2.0 is what events happened in my genealogy? In other words, in my family system. Genealogy 3.0 is, okay, now let's have a look at the places where you think you're stuck or where you're wanting to amp things up, and link all three of those. And here you go. You're now not stuck anymore. In fact, you're going to start flying. In fact, guess what? Your purpose is sitting right in front of your nose, and this will show you how.
I love it. That's awesome. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Judy. This was awesome.
Thanks, John. I had a blast.
Same here.